And I would love to introduce you to the moderator of the panel discussion, that's Jos Voskuil. And the three panelists are Florence, Daniel, and Dr. Cara Antoine.
Good to see you again. Thank you.
Jos also known for his blog, thevirtualdutchman.com, where he talks about sharing PLM concepts, methodologies, experiences, and best practices, has been active in the domain of PLM for over 20 years. As the co-founder of PLM Global Green Alliance in 2020, Jos is coaching and bringing together the needs for sustainable future and the need for modern-driven technologies. Joining you on stage, John, will be Florence, and I don't think you need an additional introduction, Florence, because you just were on stage. Daniel Schopf, please join as well, as to remind you, Managing Director of Automation Express, and Dr. Cara Antoine, the Executive Vice President, Technology and Innovation at Capgemini, and of course, known for her book, Make It Personal. Well, Jos, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I was just thinking, do you know the mantra, people, process, tools? And usually user conferences are a lot about tools, and probably the breakout sessions were talking about the tools. I was impressed by Renault, Switzerland. You all talk about processes, business experiences. So now it's also time for the people, I think. And by the way, the new dogma should be people, data, process, and tools. Data becomes so important. So if we look at why do we have this session? Well, the origin was that in December last year, I was asked to share my experiences from mediating in the field in PLM projects as the flying virtual Dutchman. I was asked to share my experiences with the champions in the Innovia community. And the feedback was that finally we can share also the problems we have with people, with politics, and they recognized, yes, as a champion you're not only a geek, but you also have to deal with people and with organizations. So that was the starting point for this session, and I'm extremely happy that we have found three people that are really people. I talked with them before, and of course, I think from Cara also, I read your book. It was fantastic to see how you put the people in the center, and you start from the people. Florence also, it's you with your energy that makes it happen, and I think also what we saw from Daniel, that he brought his legacy to create the new world. So those are the guys that are going to tell them their experience around people now. We talked about the tools and the implementation. And maybe to give you a quick feedback on, or a view on what we discussed in December, it was first the importance of culture. If you are a big company, you have to deal with culture. Not everyone is the same like you, and the famous Peter Drucker statement, maybe you know that culture eats strategy at breakfast. So if you are in a certain culture, you're almost locked. And just for fun, I put some of the patterns, and in the bottom you see the link to much more country patterns, how different cultures deal with issues. We at the Dutch, on the left top, we are having long debates, and in the end we decide tomorrow. And this is what we call the polder model. We will never go to big decisions, we will going on. Where the French, and I think you saw it also in the Renault story, we are very process-centric, focusing on defining processes, making the processes, and also the business experiences are focusing on processes. The Germans are more academic. They study, they come with a scientific conclusion, and that's the way to go forward. And I had a lot of fun working with the Swedish, and you can see it from the diagram, that there is a lot of fun in Sweden because everyone have to agree with what you plan. And if not, we reiterate and we're going to discuss again. It's frustrating if you are probably in sales, but if you're in consultancy, it's the heaven of a job. I mean. Then, the other point that the Innovia champions probably are facing is everything is going so fast. I mean, your 10 years experience in Innovia is probably outdated. We see with the coming of AI, with data, intelligence, we have to change our paradigms. And from the other hand, and I think also you talked about the innovation that is so mandatory. And yes, the users, they want innovation. but don't change me or don't change my way of working. That was also one of those friction points that we had. Another one is we also have to deal with humans. That was, I think, the biggest discovery from my journey in the field. I thought I'm going to fix technical problems in implementations. I ended up discussions on expectations, people not cooperating. And that's where also, and again, if you look at the picture, you might have seen it from also the forum in the Netherlands on storytelling. We decide by emotions, and only then we connect the logic to it, but 75% of the decisions we make are done by emotions. So that's why we need stories and storytelling. And I recommend you to read the book from Yuval Harari about Sapiens. He says, how did human beings become so powerful? Because they were able to align themselves behind a myth. It was not a technical discussion. It was an abstract something. Let's make XXX great again. Let's do this, or let's save our bananas for heaven later. That's one of the examples he gives. So creating this myth, the story, is extremely important. And then this image from Share PLM is also important to understand if you're going to implement a new system. You have people that don't get it because it's too far away from them. They don't see it, why it's relevant for them. You have people that say, I don't like it. I have a better tool. We heard this also before. Or you also have, I don't like you. And in particular, I think it's important, it's not only culture, but if you are working in a global company, you also have to be aware of politics. And I studied physics, and in physics you don't study politics. In the beginning I thought also, if you explain everything clear, everything is known and they will decide. Well, in politics, you have the people that say it's not going to work. You have the dangerous ones that are the silent ones. They will not make it work, but they will not tell you. You have the agreeable ones that say, yes, yes, yes. And then, of course, you have the firefighters that are so important because they have the job to fix all those things. And actually, they don't like you to fix the processes. So that was the discussion we had. And the conclusion was, wow, yes, we as Anovia users, we need to think about people and maybe also share experience. And that's why we now go to share some experience from those people, I would say. And Cara, I would like to start with you because you have a fantastic track record for all kinds of different industries, from oil and gas to high-tech, Microsoft. How do you deal with those companies, and how important is culture? And how do you select your people to work with?
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for that fantastic introduction. I think that really sets the scene for what we want to talk about here. And you know, in the years that I was with Microsoft, I had a couple of opportunities to sit down with Satya Nadella, our CEO at Microsoft. And one such occasion, we were not too far from here. We were in Delft at the Quantum Lab, and we did the grand opening, cut the red ribbon together. And you know, I brought him in to have a conversation with a group of employees to say, okay, now we're all inspired about the opportunity of quantum and what this can mean for us. So, you know, Satya, I've got some young boys going through university right now. What would be your advice to any person that wants to study about, you know, these great capabilities? And he said, my advice to any individual, no matter what field you're in, is to please go and study about ethics. And it was the most surprising response from Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, right? You'd think he was going to say, go study about quantum mechanics, et cetera. You know, no, it's about ethics. And so, you know, and I tell that story because I think it really underpins what we should be thinking about as we're progressing with these incredible technologies. Ethics needs to be at the center of all we do because it's really, at the end of the day, about caring for people. So another short story to illustrate what I want to share is, in the years that I spent working at Royal Shell, I spent more time not dressed up like this. I was in PPE gear. I had a hard hat on, was flying around to the offshore assets. And, you know, we did these toolbox talks. And, you know, we sat our bums down on the pipelines and we just talked with the guys. And going through a transformation at the time where effectively I was putting digital sensors on all the equipment so that we could help understand the productivity, the flow-through rates, how much sand throughput there was, what the temperature readings were, and what our production levels were, all to be able to enable us to create an environment which I created called the demanning strategy and the remote operating control center capabilities. In order to do that, we needed to put internet cabling under the seabeds. We needed to create 3 new capital projects on the beach so that we could get the guys to work offshore. So my goal was that I didn't have to fly 600 men offshore every 4 weeks, but maybe 80 maximum, and keep the rest of them on the beach, where number one, they could be safe and be at home, because our goal was goal 0. We were harming, injuring, and killing too many people in the industry because we were transporting them through helicopters, and there were accidents with trucks and cars and everything else. And we wanted to minimize those disruptions in the business. And so on one such of these conversations, it was this group of the silent folks, but also the ones that were really pretty vocal, who said to me literally, "Kara, your strategy to have us work on the beach, you're killing our brotherhood." That's what they said.
Wow.
And I thought, whoa, we're talking about massive transformation in the industry where you're going to get these digital skills that will keep you employed for the long term of your career. You get to go home to your families every night, and what you're worried about is your brotherhood. And so my message in this is from a leadership perspective, and if I look out into the room at all the leaders that are here with us, the need to be able to listen to the people in your organization, because the culture is really the combination of something of dynamicism. It's understanding at the individual level how people really feel about the work that they get to do with you every day. And if people aren't motivated, they're not going to move with you. They're not going to be willing to work on the beach. They're not going to be willing to go with you on that strategy. And you're going to have the silent majority, or actually the quite vocal minority, who will want to influence the rest. And so, by listening, basically what transpired from those conversations was to say, okay, tell me what the brotherhood feels like. Tell me how that could look when we're on the beach together, because we're going on the beach. So you can either get on the bus or you're not going to be a part of this future journey. But I want to recreate this feeling that you feel like you belong. And what we did effectively, offshore we had these halls of fame, which was where they could post, well, their posters, let's just call them that, and they could also hang up pictures of their family members. And I said, why don't we recreate that on the beach? So when you come into the canteen or you're walking down the main hall of the office building, you can recreate that feeling, that experience of this is where the guys come together, where you're going to be working together. And it still looks and feels like you're in this offshore environment where you can enjoy that same kind of brotherhood that you experienced offshore. There's one other short story I want to share, and then I'll close with that. And that is that also within this community of, being able to do some amazing transformation. I found myself in one environment, which was an asset we have here on the shore, which is called Pernis. Maybe some of you have heard of that in Rotterdam. Yeah. And this was a site, about 400 guys. I was one of 4 other women, so there were 5 of us on that site. And I was again working on the digitization of that environment to help save the environment. And in that space and all this PPE gear that I wore in my years with Shell, as a woman, I had to literally wear the man's clothes, literally. I had to loan someone's clothes because there were no clothing that were made for women on these sites. There were usually no toilets either, but that's another story. But I had to put my feet into someone else's sweaty boots. I had to wear their clothing, which, frankly, I didn't quite need the same, mechanisms of the clothing that the guys needed. And, if you saw pictures of me from before, there were gloves that were literally hanging off of my hand because they're too big for my hands. And so with these other women, I got together and I said, girls, I'm going to stitch up my own suit. And what I did was I literally just took a sewing needle and I started to stitch a suit that fit my body. And it just felt better. It just felt like I could wear something that fit me. In terms of, being a catalyst to make a change in the culture, what I wanted to do was to help women feel like they really belonged at Shell. And this is what happened. By designing and creating PPE gear made by women for women, the women of Shell really felt like they belonged in this organization. They felt like they meant to be there because literally the clothing fit them. And by the way, the extra benefit was we could keep our own PPE gear and we didn't have to suit up in someone else's sweaty shoots anymore. And so that was amazing and it was transformative. And so I hope these short stories help to illustrate what I believe is important about how we need to connect with people at the individual level, what helps to motivate people to want to be there, to want to show up, to want to get up every day, to be a part of a brotherhood, to feel like they belong in an organization. And you need to do that at the individual level. And as a leader, you need to listen so carefully to what is really motivating people to want to be a part of that mission. Because if you don't, they're not going to be on the bus, they're not going to be on the beach, and you're not going to have them with you for the duration of the company. So those are some short stories maybe to illustrate what I'd like to express in terms of, I think, the importance of connecting with people.
Yeah, I think they were very illustrating of things, and I didn't think about the female boots, because I always think you have to make your boots dirty on the ground, and that was your second point. You said it's important to be in the field, talk with the people, and I think that's where I want to ask also on both Florence and Danielle. They also come from the field. How important was it in your current projects that you understand the field and that you talk with the field? How important is the connection with the field for you guys? Maybe Florence, I start with you. You're still warm.
Yeah, well, if I go a long way back, somewhere in my youth, there I started up working in a factory. And I worked in a factory for years, and I came to know a lot of people. I came to know how things were working, how things were not working. And at a certain point, you came to realize that, okay, things can be done better, but you also learn the mechanisms of why people are not willing to move, and why people are choosing to do so when actually it's common sense for everyone to do it the other way. And then if you came in this, at a certain point you go to the office up, and then in that time, especially in that time, you got a different status, and people from the office, we cannot work with them. And then I started to understand the difference in how we look at each other, but actually without bothering to take the time to discuss with each other what you actually want. And when I done my projects, my engineering projects, it helped me so much that if there was a situation or an issue, I go downstairs, talk to the guys, discuss them, sit around the table, have a cup of coffee, and suddenly everything was possible. Because you learned that there is some wall which is not there, but it's an imaginary wall, and that helped me throughout the rest of my career. I always brought it with me. First, go down, not literally, but go down, talk to the people, make the walls disappear, and then start working on your solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go to Daniel for his opinion, but I think I look at the timing also, so I will combine it with the next question. I think all of you in the room, how much time do you spend, by the way, on people in your projects? Caring about people? Or do you have technical plannings? We have to deliver this version at this time of the date. I mean, that's one of the questions I pick up also here. It's about connecting to the people. And for Daniel, I think you're now an exec of a company, but you also came with your boots from the ground as a mechanical engineer. And what I loved from your story is that you lived the legacy for many years, almost 20 years, and then you started without legacy, and you say, I'm not going to compromise again on the legacy anymore, I'm going to do the new ways of working. So my question is, how did you get those experienced people that you need in a startup to work in your modern way of working, and how did they get also the young people knowledgeable and skilled enough?
Yeah, you told before. So it's everything about storytelling. Storytelling is very important.
Right.
And everybody needs a story. So the experienced guys and women we jumped in the company needs a vision. They need a goal. They need a purpose. Why are we doing it? Not everybody is working for money. Everybody want to be part of it, or they want to be part of the story, want to be doing something. And so for me, it was totally clear from the first day what I want to have. So I want to have 60 people. I want to have the best people in the world for special machines in my area. I want to have my own facility. I want to have the best cut system. I want to have the best finance system. And now, 3 years later, I have everything of them, but not because of me, because of the teamwork. So the teamwork is very important. The storytelling is very important, and to be focused in the future for the next step is very important. If you have no goal in the future, you will not achieve this goal. And so what I do with everybody who jump in the company, I tell him the vision. Why are we doing this? We are not doing this because I want to drive a Lamborghini to the company and going back. I'm doing this because I want to have a sustainable social footprint by the end of the day. Yeah? When I'm older, getting older, and afterwards there should be a company with nice experience, people's machines and so on. So by the end of the day, it's a storytelling, and you always need a story from one story to the next to motivate the people, to motivate yourself.
I cannot agree less. I mean, storytelling is my favorite hobby, and I think that we all need it. And also, again, the question to you, audience, how much do you use storytelling in your implementations? Do you have a vision? Do you have a story? Or is it, again, more an IT project? Take care of this kind of ways of working. Cara, Florence, anything to add to Daniel's story?
No, I recognize a lot of what he's saying, except the Lamborghini part. I drive Peugeot, which is nice.
That should be a Land Rover now. Huh?
Yeah.
I think what Daniel triggered in me is that I would challenge Peter Drucker's quote that you shared with us earlier, which is probably something more around, passion eats strategy for breakfast. Mm-hmm. Because, if you don't have passion in people, you're not going to get them to join your scale up, to join your corporation, your company. And that passion is really what drives people to want to get up out of bed every day, to do whatever it is that you're working on. So maybe we can call up Peter and tell him to update his quote.
Yes, he's one of the old grumpy men. Looks like.
And when I'm coming back to the Alps, to Austria, I join the company, and the next story I will tell at home. We are on the right way. We are good in this. Mm-hmm. We make perfect work, good job, and so you have to motivate. You have to be every day on site and tell them, good job, good do. I hear we are on the right way. Everybody.
Pat on the back. Now and then.
So this is also storytelling. Storytelling is not always the goal in 10 years. Storytelling means also the conversation each day and the motivation each day, and so on and so on. And that can be also a story about how was my feeling about this day and my.
Exactly, and the power of positivity.
The power of positivity,
If 90% works well and you focus on this 10% and say it's a big problem, then you're in the wrong mindset. Huh? I mean, 90% is going well. So maybe for our last question, Florence, we also have to talk about culture. And is this your slide? Yeah. When I talked with you from Hengelo, and I know Hengelo a little bit, this small dot on the map in the Netherlands, I was also impressed by your enthusiasm, your vision, your passion. And then I was thinking, he's going to launch this to headquarters, 8,000 people, there is small Hengelo. How do you deal with this culture? How do you motivate outside your reach, I would say?
Yes, of course, I thought about that when the question came, and it will be a huge challenge, but I think there are some things which are very clear. First of all, quality management a system and management in India. They know exactly what they are doing. They're doing a good job, and they do it differently. And the thing is, what I want to avoid in bringing this to India is telling people that they are doing things wrong. They do it in a correct way, but maybe there's a more efficient way. Yeah. Secondly, I think I had the luxury that with a relative small group in Hengelo, I got the luxury to implement a 3D experience platform in a quite relaxed manner, starting with a few people, then add some people on the pilot team. So in fact, we ended up with a pilot team of 30 people. Luckily for me, a lot of those 30 people are Indian people and working in Hengelo. So when the idea came to implement it throughout the organization, one of my wishes was to add those persons in my team. Because of experience, I know that it will help to get people on the train more easily. And that is what we do. And I think that is a strong foundation for the knowledge bridge we want to build towards India. And that will help us very much in achieving our goals.
Right, and I think hooking in on the storytelling, I think it must be the story that motivates people to work different.
Of course, there are always multiple sessions, and people come from India to us, and we go to India, and there are multiple conversations, and during those conversations, the best ideas and the best progresses are being made.
And just out of curiosity, are you making a kind of people map of your headquarters? Who should I take as a champion?
Yeah, we already selected the core team in India, and also intentionally choose users, not managers, and not even quality managers at first. First the users. First let them get acquainted with the whole software, and they can be then our ambassadors on the other side of the knowledge bridge. And we can then let them spread the philosophy, the new way of working throughout the company. And that is a bit the strategy we're aiming on.
Exactly, yeah. Again, the rollout strategy from a project is so much also taking the people into account. Yeah? Not say, we do train the trainer, we train a few people, no, it's the emotion. It's not the technology that you have to influence people. Cara, do you have anything to add on this?
Just final thoughts. I think, we can have the most beautiful, shiniest technologies in the world, but if we're not able to bring our people along in how things are transforming, the technology doesn't matter, because we need the people to be with us. And you can take the most talented, ambitious individual and put them in an environment that's toxic or that's not encouraging them or doesn't really leverage their talents, and they'll fail miserably despite their talent. But you take that same person and you put them in an environment where you encourage them to thrive. If I think about these very antiquated HR systems that say, these are the 6 things out of 10 that you do really poorly, and these are the 4 that you're pretty okay in. So we're going to work really hard on making you better on the 6 out of 10. And that's what we're going to focus on. It's as if you're, a fish that has to climb the tree. Yeah. And, it doesn't work. And I've experienced time and time again throughout my career that when you would focus on those 4 things, perhaps, and hopefully maybe there's more than 4 that they're really great at, but when you focus on the things that people are really good at, you're going to get 10 times more performance out of that person, 10 times more enjoyment and productivity and pleasure, and find their passion. So, find that thing, find that spark, find that passion in the people that you're working with, and amplify that, please. Don't focus on the things, because we can't all possibly be good at everything. So find the things people are really great at, and then amplify that. And I guarantee you're going to find people that are super motivated and excited to want to be on that mission with you. And that's really important to me.
And what you're saying there reminds me of the Dassault logo. IFRI logo is also pushing you to ask questions, not to take for granted that this is the situation. And if you want to find out things, you have to ask questions. And we discussed yesterday, you have to listen, not to come with already an opinion. And that's also what you said, Florence.
Yeah.
Daniel, you have concluding points on this?
No, I'm really happy to be here. Everything ran well today, I would say.
Okay, thank you. I mean, that gives us the opportunity. Is there anyone in the audience here that says, wow, I think also about people, but this is impossible? You have a question for those experts here? Or a challenge?
It's up to you now to throw the microphone. Just behind you, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we're also in the process of implementing. We know that people are very important in the process, but it's often very difficult to keep them involved, because you start with your core team, you try to explain to everybody what you're busy, and at a certain moment you're just working on it. You don't have clear results. What would be your recommendation on actually how do you keep them involved, because they don't see direct results, and at a certain moment you're working in the dark. So,
Can I take this?
Yeah.
I recognize this very much, actually, what you just said made me think about that very much, because at a certain point you have a group of 10 people in your pilot team, and 4 do outperform. And actually they are really driving this, and they exceed your expectations, and then I focus on those 4. Those people are your ambassadors. And I do encourage them to please go to my manager and say that you like it. And then you get a full support. The rest will follow. At a certain point, they will see that there's a group very much exploring everything and doing this in a much smarter way and a more efficient way. See the quality rises, and then they will follow. Yeah. But you need to have that small group and cherish them. Yeah.
We tend to spend 80% of our time on the 20% that are taking our time.
Yeah.
And that's where you lose the game. So, you know, if you can kind of reverse the equation and, you know, focus on the ones that are super motivated, and, you know, those are the ones that are going to be way out in front. And, you know, I always look at the organization in threes, in fact, and I say, you know, you have kind of the top third, which are supercharged and motivated. You don't even have to tell them, they're already way out in front. They're running ahead. You don't even have to tell them what to do. You've got the bottom third. And those are probably people you're going to be spending the most of your time on trying to convince, you know, this is, you know, something you should be working with us on. It's actually the middle group that to me is most concerning, because they're the sort of the swing vote. And you know, if you can't get them with you to join the top 30%, then you've got 60% on the wrong side of the equation. And so I often focus on that middle group that says, you know, how can we leverage the top group to influence them? You know, and make them, as you said, a great word, the advocates for influencing the rest of the organization to come along. And when you've got that 60%, the rest of the 30% will get on board too, ultimately.
That means we're on the good track. Thank you for that.
So focusing on the middle group, I think that's so important. A lesson that I also learned as a Flying Dutchman: you come to a customer, they sit there already armed with the errors and the problems, and then the first thing I make sure that I know there is somebody that likes me too. So if they say your system is terrible, and I work for Smart Team, which was the best system, by the way, and then if those people are saying it's buggy, it doesn't work, then I would say, Cara, you're working also with the system. Do you observe the same? And then you take away the tension of the focus on negative. It's a trick. If you are in an audience, make sure you have also a friend in the audience. Otherwise, you're killed, probably.
One other thought. There was an image you shared earlier, which was about sometimes we just don't like the person, right? That was on one of your previous slides. This is so important, because the chemistry that we need between two people to make the relationship work is vital. And I think the best business that we do is usually done over a coffee or a dinner or a lunch or something, so involve food of some sort, because this is where you really can warm someone's heart. But when you don't have the chemistry with someone, that is going to make it that much more difficult to be able to be successful. And you need to find something that you have in common with that person and start with that one something, because then maybe it can grow into something bigger. So I think we sometimes have to put our biases and our judgments to the side and say, I didn't really like that person, but try to find that one thing that is going to connect you, because it can be the make or break in how that relationship will evolve on behalf of your organizations. So it's chemistry that really we have to find the click factor. It's real important.
Chemistry and empathy.
Yeah, and empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a nice conclusion.